everybody, and welcome to the Goldenboys1881 YouTube channel and to the second episode of the Goldenboys1881Talks Podcast. Today, we are unfortunately not going to be joined by anyone, excuse me, and I will be going through the live chat, so if any of you want to drop a quick message or a question, and I will go ahead and answer them. Today, as you could tell by the title and on the thumbnail, we are doing our Premier League predictions. I know this is quite early, but I thought as I won't have much time further on in the next couple of months, I think today will probably be the better time to do it than any other day. But first, I would like to probably give out my opinions over the recent transfers we've had, such as Ashley Fletcher, rumours of Rafael Santos Borré from the River Plate, signing of Emmanuel Dennis, the release of Ben Wilmot, and also Matty Pollock. But I think to start off with, I would like to give my personal opinions over Ben Wilmot. And right now, I think the release of Ben Wilmot for £2 million is very poor in my opinion. He's a young player. And he was a good player. Don't get me wrong, but under Ivic at the beginning of the season, he played a few games, whereas since since Xisco Munoz came in, he just wasn't playing, and I think that might be one of the reasons why Ben Wilmot was released. But as we signed him in 2018 in the summer, the season, I think before we got to the final, maybe. But then we got rid of him twice on loan, and he's really young. He's still 21 years old, I think. But we then let him go to Udinese for half the season. Then we got him back, and then gave him to the Championship side, Swansea. And then we got him back, and then we just sold him. But I mean, he's scored a goal for us in his time here. I feel like he could have spent a lot more time of his career here, but I think it's also that he's moving from a team that just got promoted to the Premier League, and now a team that's just mid-table, Stoke City, pretty much in the Championship, which I think is probably not the greatest of signings that Ben Wilmot could have made. But again, I think the fact that it was 2 million is pretty poor. And then looking on FootMob right now, his price range is 3 million. And the fact that we've reportedly apparently lost near about £1 million on him is pretty poor. And I mean, £1 million can be a lot for us, especially when we're trying to sign players such as Rafael Santos Borré. We're trying to sign Glenn Kamara from Rangers. But again, I think it wasn't the best of businesses Watford could have done. And I'd like to also talk about Danny Rose and Ashley Young. And I have to say, Ashley Young's definitely not going to get a nice welcome on the first game of the Premier League season when we host them. I think it's just really... I don't think Ashley Young thought about what he was saying, really. He did say when he was at Inter Milan that he would walk from Milan to Watford to play for us again at the end of his career. But to be honest, I would prefer Danny Rose out of those two players. The fact that Danny Rose is 4 or 5 years younger, he's probably got more Premier League experience for playing teams such as Tottenham and Newcastle. But I just think it's not great that Ashley Young quoted that he would walk to Watford to play for us, yet he's gone to what I'll say is a rival for Watford, Aston Villa. But I'd say the game will be very close in the first week of the Premier League. Again, Rafael Santos Borré and Ashley Fletcher. I have to say Ashley Fletcher is probably a signing we heard the rumours that it was coming from the Watford Observer and some other sources. But I think Ashley Fletcher, is he the signing we all really want? I don't really think so. I mean, what's his name? Bore is much better. And no offense to Fletcher, but he's much better than Ashley Fletcher. As he's older, I think, but he's going to be better, I think, attackingly than Fletcher. I think Fletcher is going to be similar to. I feel like he's going to be similar to Andre Gray and Deeney put together. Not fast, but then he can go down slightly easily, which, I mean, is good. But I think for Watford, it's not going to be good enough, in my opinion, because last season against Cardiff, we scored our first free kick in 5 years, which is a very horrible stat to analyse pretty much. But I don't really know if Ashley Fletcher is going to get any game time unless we play him in cups. But I think we just need to get the Rafael Santos Borre signing done with, because now that we've signed Emmanuel Dennis from Club Rouge in Belgium, we can have Sarr on the left, possibly Emmanuel Dennis on the left. No, Sarr on the right, possibly Emmanuel Dennis on the left, as he's an all-round forward, and Santos Borre up front. And that will be a brilliant front three, and a front three possibly some big clubs such as Tottenham, Leicester, Arsenal, their defence could be scared of, or even Manchester United. But we'll have to see when that happens, and if it happens. As remember, we do still have the pre-season friendlies, so Xisco Munoz can test new signings such as Fletcher, Dennis, Rose, and Imran Louza, the central midfielder. And I would like now to start pretty much showing you my predictions. I've created a small PowerPoint slide based on who I think will finish where in the league. So we'll have a look at this now. We'll start from 20th and go down to the Champions League, Europa League, and obviously the Champions. So we'll start in the relegation zone, and I'm starting off with Brentford in finishing rock bottom of the league. The reason why I think this is because I think it's the first time in their history, or in a very, very long time, that they have been in the Premier League. Do I think they'll stay in the Premier League? With teams such as Manchester City and the progressing Leicester, West Ham after their really good season last year, and I mean Manchester United, if they do sign Sancho, which I highly doubt they will in my opinion, then I mean they're not going to stand a chance. I mean, with Ivan Toney, I think he's going to be similar to a Timu Pukki from the 2019 to 2020 season, scoring good goals. He's a good striker, but I just don't think he's going to finish in. I don't think he's going to help the team enough. Or defensively, I don't think the team will be keeping themselves out of the relegation zone and rock bottom of the league. In 19th place, I have gone for Norwich City, also known as the yo-yo team, the team that gets promoted and the team that gets relegated. A team that had a very poor season in 2019 to 2020 season, as we said earlier. But I don't think they're going to stay in the league for long, similar to the season they got relegated before. It was fairly close in the relegation battle, but Norwich were the team who obviously, as I said, finished last, and they were pronounced relegated, I think 3 or 4 weeks before Bournemouth and Watford both got relegated later on in the season. Players such as Todd Cantwell, I can't see him performing much next season, whether he's going to play or not. Timu Pukki, maybe, but as we saw in the Euros with Finland, he didn't perform all that well. He definitely had a few chances that he just did not take. And also their new signing, Rashica, I think his name is, from Weber Bremen in the Belgium, in the German league. He's probably going to be someone similar to Ismaila Sarr. Obviously, he signed Sarr the season we got relegated, and I think he's pretty much going to be the exact, pretty much like a twin to Ismaila Sarr, going to be their star player throughout the whole season, possibly get them some crucial goals. And then moving up to 18th, this might be a debatable one between everyone. I've gone for Brighton. I just don't think they're going to stay in the Premier League for much longer. Obviously, last season, I think last season they ended the record where they had their first home win or something in nearly a year, which I think is very, very poor. They had the worst home record in the league last year as well, which again is very, very poor. Graham Potter, who is statistically the best English manager in the world, but I don't think that's going to change Brighton. They've been in the relegation battle for the last 2-3 years now, and I think they're going to be struggling with obviously their pretty much one of their icons of the club, Glenn Murray, just retiring after spending last season out on loan, or partly to Watford and the rest of the season to Nottingham Forest. But again, I can't really think of any other players for Brighton who will just perform. Leandro Trossard, obviously, he got called up to the Belgium squad. He can't really hit the target. He, I think, was a disappointing signing for Brighton. Obviously, fans got excited with him, and then he just did not perform. But I think the only player I can also think of who might help a bit, but he's defensive, is Tariq Lamptey, who's obviously been a future star for many clubs, caught the eyes of bigger clubs such as Manchester City and Tottenham. But yeah, we'll see how they go. A team that I think will have just survived from the finished 17th, one place above the relegation zone, is Burnley. Another team that's in a similar sort of position to Brighton. A team that just can't. I mean, they're just a team that always struggles every league, every season pretty much. They got promoted. I think it was 2014 or 2016. Correct me if I'm wrong. But again, similar to Brighton, have some key players such as Chris Wood. They did have Sam Vokes before releasing him to Stoke. Well, that was a few years back. But again, I just don't think that attackingly they don't have the players. They have McNeil. He's more of a midfielder. Well, he is a midfielder. He's more of a player who has sets up the goals. But it's just him pretty much in the midfield. And I don't think he can carry the midfield by himself, despite he's really young as well. And also Wood again. They got Wood, Matej Vydra up front. Vydra isn't performing as well as again fans would have hoped him to in Burnley. Watford wanted him back. I wished he went back, but I don't think he will go back to the Vic. But Sam Vokes again, Chris Wood again, he was a very key player, and I think he was one of the main reasons why Burnley stayed in the Premier League. But I just can't see him carrying Burnley week in, week out in the Premier League, especially against teams, as I said, with the other teams, against against the big clubs. Then finishing above them might be a controversial one, Crystal Palace. Again, similar of Chris Wood, and I think it'll be similar to Wilfried Zaha. I haven't seen him perform all that well I just don't think he performed well last season at all. He's a very controversial player, obviously against Watford. Watford fans despise him a lot. They do upset clubs quite a bit, obviously ignoring there's I think 7-0 loss to Liverpool last season. But I just, again, similar. Well, I mean, they have not similar to Brighton or Burnley, but they're always like a mid-table or just below the mid-table sort of team, and they're just not as good as what everyone was expecting. Obviously, they got promoted the season before, a couple of seasons, or the season before Watford got promoted back in 2015. But again, Wilfried Zaha catching the eyes of bigger clubs such as Manchester United and some foreign clubs as well. But I just don't think they're going to get anywhere this season, really, especially with their average age. Most of their players are pretty old as well. Going into 15th, I think is going to be Watford. controversial with me believing Crystal Palace will finish below Watford. But I think Watford, if we do sign players that I was talking about before the predictions, like Santos, Boré, and have the front three like Sarr, Boré, and Dennis, then I think we will be in brilliant position in the league. Obviously, us beating Liverpool, no Watford fan will ever forget. Back in two seasons ago. But we can upset big clubs. We can obviously we're similar to an England, to be honest. Not saying we're as good as England, but we try and play like when we play teams such as let's say Brighton, Burnley, Palace, and that lot. Statistically, before we got relegated, we were better than them. Ignoring the season we got relegated in, but we tend to play how the other team wants us to play, if you know what I mean. But it's just not going to be it's not going to help us much in the league if we carry on playing like that. And obviously I think we'll be one of the youngest managers in the league with Xisco Munoz. He just got his I want to say work permit, but like professional managerial, the top league pass pretty much. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see where the Hornets will finish. I did try and make this table prediction as non-biased as possible, because I could have easily made Watford finish 7th, because that's where we originally thought we would finish. The season we went to the final, obviously the season after we got relegated. But yeah, controversial if Palace will finish below than Watford, or even Burnley will finish lower than Watford. Leave your thoughts in the comments section. And yeah, in 14th, I think is Newcastle. I can honestly see if Steve Bruce gets sacked this season. That's my initial thought. Obviously, Joel Linton, 40 million, a couple of seasons back from Hoffenheim. Not as good as anyone was anticipating. Joe Willock, obviously, they wanted to sign him on a permanent. There was no way Arsenal were going to accept that. They would probably want him back. But I don't think they have any other players that are key, in my opinion. Saint Maximin, he's good, but I think he is better at Nice in France before playing and moving to Newcastle. Also, I think that as I was saying, I think Steve Bruce might get sacked because obviously before signing Joe Willock, I personally think Joe Willock, and many people will believe Joe Willock carried Newcastle at the end of this last season. Hence, they finished where they were. Going into 13th will be Leeds, a very good season they had last season after getting promoted straight up 2 years ago after winning the championship. I think they're going to be similar to a one-season wonder like Sheffield United last season. I don't think they'll play as badly though. I think they'll finish in a similar sort of position to where they did last season, but I think they'll finish possibly just a little bit below. Obviously, players such as Patrick Bamford, Stuart Dallas, and Click. There's many other players like Rodrigo as well, but I just don't. Well, I think Leeds are going to play pretty well this season. And one I regret, well, I wish I wouldn't predict here, but it's going to be realistic. Aston Villa finishing 12th, or should I say Jack Grealish finishing 12th. How much I think I despise more Premier League. I dislike more Premier League teams than I do actually like them. Aston Villa and Burnley all being one of them. But Aston Villa, Jack Grealish, is the carrier. I think every team has some sort of person who carries the team. I think Jack Grealish is theirs, and I think he's going to bring them up to 12th. And despite nearly getting relegated the season we got relegated, obviously with the controversial with I think it was the goal line technology when they played against Sheffield United. But yeah, I think Aston Villa, as long as they keep Jack Grealish, I think they'll possibly finish mid-table-ish. If they sell Jack Grealish to Manchester City, which were their reports of, then I think Aston Villa will drop down the table a bit. And then moving up to 11th, I think is Southampton, a team that's I think common for having bad starts to the season and then ending in a pretty decent place. Obviously, having 2 seasons in a row where they lost 9-0, which is a stat I don't think Southampton fans will want me to be talking about. But again, defensively, they need to increase. They got Jan Bednarek, they got Yannick Vestergaard, two big, tough central defence. I think they possibly need to get a new goalkeeper. I think they'll need to spend some money this season if they want to finish any higher. Cause there's no reason why they can't be a West Ham from last season, but I think it's just not. I think it's going to be a 50-50 season. Half the seasons, as always, half the season they do well in, half the season they do bad. And obviously they caught the eyes last season for being at the top of the league for a couple of weeks. But I just don't think they're going to be doing as well as most Southampton fans will hope to, because again, they need to spend money. 10th, West Ham. Obviously, Jesse Lingard has gone back to Manchester United, obviously missing out in the call up to the Euros. But West Ham, I think with David Moyes, he's a good manager. I think he will find a way to keep this momentum going. Obviously, I think they have the money after finishing in the Europa League. They'll be given a lot of money. No reason why they're not going to spend a lot of it on really high class players. We saw that with Soucek, who's been amazing. He's doing really well yesterday against Netherlands in the Euros, winning 2-0. But I think West Ham will have a very good season. Probably not as good as last season, obviously, with Jesse Lingard, who was similar to a Joe Willock for Newcastle. My opinion, carried West Ham towards the end of the season, but I think David Moyes will find a way to keep this momentum going. But I just don't think they'll finish as high of, I think it was 6th place they finished last season. Just don't think they're going to finish that high this season. If any of that made sense. 9th place, if you can't tell by that, Wolves. Obviously, they didn't have the greatest seasons last season, especially with the season before. They were known as the team that upset a lot of big clubs. I don't think they'll do as well that season as they are going to do this season. And I think that with Raul Jimenez back from injury, because we saw that he was back in training after his horrible injury, I think he could be one of the key players, if you want to call them, for them. Adama Traore, don't think he's going to perform this year. Hasn't done much at all in the Euros, but I think Wolves are going to be better than they were last season, but probably not as good as they were before that. Heading in towards the bigger clubs now, I think 8th place will be Everton, obviously having a really, really good start to the season last year, then having one of the worst endings to the season, in my opinion. First for most of the time, and then something hit. I think it's going to be a gamble for Everton. Obviously, Everton rejecting a bid for Richarlison from Barcelona for around 100 million, which is a very poor. Similar to with the Ben Wilmot, I think it was a very poor 100 million. Well, it's not similar to Ben Wilmot, but 100 million. I think with a player like Richarlison, you've got to accept. And 100 million, you can buy probably someone better. But with players such as Allen, James Rodriguez, Calvert-Lewin, I think they would play pretty well. Pickford's performing really well this season in the Euros. Will he carry that on into the Premier League next season? I have no clue. But we'll have to see. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti leaving Everton. He's gone to a foreign club. I can't remember where. I think it might have been Italy. I might be wrong. But I think a gamble. I have no idea who they'll want. They might want one of the managers that Tottenham couldn't pick up. But yeah. Heading into 7th, I think, is one of Tottenham's rivals, Arsenal. A very poor season, in my opinion, they had last season. They tried to recover, but it was too late for them last season. And the manager right there, Mikel Arteta, known as the youngest Premier League manager last season, and I think the season before. He's just not. I think his time is over at the Emirates. With Arsene Wenger leaving, Unai Emery getting sacked, and pretty much embarrassing the club themselves in Europa League. Whether I've heard rumours that they're going to buy pretty good players such as Eduard Camavinga from Stade Rennes. I think they'll get some crucial points this season. Maybe they'll finish higher than 7th, but right now I haven't seen them be too busy in the transfer window. Obviously, the Euros is currently happening. I just don't know whether they'll finish higher or not. It's just a question asked. We'll have to find out later on in the season. Then going into 6th place, a team we have slightly talked about, Tottenham. I don't know whether they're going to be a good team this season or not. Obviously, with reports of Harry Kane possibly leaving to Manchester City or Barcelona. Teams Heung-min Son could possibly be leaving. Without those two, I think their team is pretty much dead. So Tottenham have got to try and keep hold of those players as long as they can, but we'll have to see. Moving into 5th place and the Europa League spot is the team that's getting better every season. Leicester City. Brendan Rodgers proved everyone wrong. Obviously, with the tragic news from a couple of years ago, to winning the league, to winning, obviously the league was before the sad news, but then winning the FA Cup, it's amazing. I think how Leicester have been ruled. I don't like Leicester, but I think they did pretty well. Very well in the FA Cup, obviously winning the FA Cup for the first time in their history. And I think Leicester City will overtake one of either Tottenham or Arsenal to become one of the top 6 clubs. Heading into the Champions League positions now, I think is Manchester United. With Manchester United, obviously reports of Jadon Sancho. Do I believe they'll sign him? No. Obviously Dortmund are wanting high numbers for them. United, obviously, I really doubt United will want to pay that much for them, for him. But I think Man United with Bruno Fernandes, who hasn't performed too well in the Euros, obviously just getting knocked out last night against Belgium with a Torgan Hazard goal. I think Bruno Fernandes will help them a lot. I think Greenwood will help them out as well. I think Wan-Bissaka, Van de Beek, who's been a slight disappointment in my opinion. I think he's just on the pitch just to get his steps, pretty much. But I think they have some quality players. Obviously, the rumours of Paul Pogba and a Ronaldo swap deal. If they do get Ronaldo, I can see them finishing higher than 4th. But I think Manchester United will either finish 4th or worse, despite having a pretty good season last year. Heading into 3rd is the team that didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, Liverpool. Obviously, having the best home record in a very, very, very long time, ended by Burnley in the 1-0 defeat, and then having some poor home run games. Talks of Jurgen Klopp getting sacked. I just don't know if Liverpool will perform as well this season. Mo Salah, Firmino, Sadio Mane, one of the deadliest front 3 in football across the world. Didn't perform much last year. Possibly they perform this year. Obviously, Salah just nicking. I think it was Salah, or maybe it was Kane getting the golden boot last year. But I think if Salah wants to be get a golden boot this year, I think the players will have to help them. I think they just got to improve attacking in my opinion. Greedy, I think, is what their forwards can be known as. Firmino, not enough skills, or not enough. He's not as good as shooting as he used to be. And obviously their main man, Jorginho Wijnaldum, just leaving to go to Paris Saint-Germain. I think they might need to sign the centre mid with obviously having Thiago Alcantara, I think his name is. Jordan Henderson, who's now injury prone, will get injured pretty much every time he'll come onto the pitch. And I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain, I don't know. They'll have to think of a new signing in the midfield, someone as good as Wijnaldum. Obviously, the window is open, so they'll have to spend some money soon. Going to second, I think, is Chelsea. A brilliant season they had last year with swapping from Frank Lampard and then shortly after switching to Thomas Tuchel. Winning the Champions League, losing in the FA Cup to Leicester. But I mean, two really popular and big cups. Finishing in the final in both of them is a very big achievement, and they'll get a lot of money for that, especially for how well they finished last season as well. I think Thomas Tuchel has helped Chelsea a lot last season, and I think with the fans coming back as well, I forgot to mention about that, will help them reach to this position in the league and get into the Champions League and possibly win the Champions League again. And going into first place, the team that Chelsea did beat in the final in the Champions League, and the team I haven't mentioned yet, Manchester City. Brilliant team. Obviously, one of the teams Watford fans don't want to be playing against. We lose like 6-0 every time we play them. But I mean, with Sterling and Mahrez apparently reportedly possibly leaving, they'll have more money, and they're not afraid to spend it on players such as Erling Haaland, which they were rumoured to, Lionel Messi, which again they were rumoured to, but they're not afraid to spend their money. Aguero just leaving, they can just spend more money to get a new striker, and De Bruyne, he's just brilliant. He's a brilliant assist maker. He can score anytime he wants. He can assist players whenever he wants. We've seen that in the Euros against Belgium. And I just think Manchester City will finish better than anyone else this season and be the Premier League winners. So that will be my Champions League prediction. My Premier League predictions. I have no idea how close I'll be this season. Whether I'll be I don't know whether I'll be correct or whether I will be completely wrong. We will have a look at that later on in the season. But I think Watford will finish between 15th and possibly 18th. And yeah, so that's my Premier League predictions. We vaguely touched on the signings of Watford or possible signings. And yeah, is there any questions anyone is wanting to ask? Just put it in the chat. Oh, we've had one. Do you think we will sign Boré? Personally, yes. Munoz, I think, is very keen on him. I think he will be a brilliant player for us. And I think Watford will need him. I think his contract ends at River Plate. But yeah, I did have a message on Instagram from someone. I don't know why they didn't chat it on the YouTube. Do you think? Wait, let me just put up. Yeah. Do you think? Well, who do you think will finish first if Man City don't win the league? Well, I did say Chelsea would finish second, and there's no reason why not Chelsea can't win the league. With the players they've got, Timo Werner, I think he'll probably be better than he was last season. But yeah, I think Man City will definitely win the league. They're probably the best team in the world right now, despite losing the Champions League. But I think Chelsea are pretty much fairly close to that with the reign of Thomas Tuchel. Well, thank you, everybody. I think this will be the end of the stream. We have been streaming for a good 35 minutes. I would like to thank you all for watching and asking questions. You can watch the stream over back. It will be staying on YouTube after I finish the stream. Please look in the comments, in the description. You'll see the link to our Instagram. You'll get up-to-date news following Watford. And also, if you can, please possibly go and subscribe to what's his name? James, the Watford Way. Obviously, he will hopefully be popping on to some podcasts in the future. He did pop up in the podcast number 1, which there was a really embarrassing technical error where we couldn't hear his voice for the first 20 minutes. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Subscribe, leave a like, and leave a follow on our Instagram. Have a great day, and goodbye.